Well, the message from the US is that this administration, the Trump administration, intends to apply what they call maximum pressure on Iran and the limits, the restrictions on Iraq importing Iranian gas is part of the maximum pressure campaign. Well, I agree with you. I mean, the most responsible approach for Baghdad is to take full advantage of Iraqi gas. So, Iraqi gas in Kurdistan and Iraqi gas elsewhere in the country. You know, if you fly on a commercial airliner over Iraq, the most prominent thing you see as you look out the window is Iraqi gas being flared, burned from Iraqi oil wells. And I think the US approach would be for Iraq to use that gas to produce its own power and to be independent of imports from Iran. Well, I think you're right. The US government position is that Iraq, Kurdistan, should export oil from Kurdistan through Turkey and into the global marketplace. This makes sense for Iraq, it makes sense for Kurdistan, and it makes sense for the US oil companies, the producers in the Kurdistan region. So this is a win-win-win proposal. And I think this administration, the Trump administration, will assert pressure, will assert influence on Baghdad to open the pipeline through Turkey. So I believe the U.S. position, and this administration has the position of Baghdad working with Kurdistan in accordance with the Iraqi constitution. So the constitution is the basis for the relationship between Baghdad and the KRG. And the U.S. position is that the constitution should be the ruling factor in terms of Baghdad to Kurdistan relations. And of course, this means that Kurdistan has some autonomy, some independence, some autonomy, but that Baghdad also has some responsibility. So I'm not an expert in this area, but I think it is very important for Baghdad to be completely sovereign. That is, to be in control of its own security. And the concern with some of the militias currently operating in Iraq is that they are not controlled by the Iraqi government. And this is an ongoing concern, which has been going on now for some time. So this is an interest of America that the Baghdad government be in charge. So any militia that is not beholden to the Iraqi government, the U.S. government believes that situation should change. Well, look, the Iraqi government, Iraq is a sovereign state. Iraq, and that means that Iraq makes its own decisions with regard to its constitution, regards to its leadership, in regard to its national laws, and so forth, and with regard to its economy. So the U.S. relationship with Iraq is not a relationship of someone which dictates to someone who abides. It's not like that. It's like this, side by side, with Iraq making sovereign decisions. So it's in the U.S. interest that Iraq be fully sovereign and not beholden to, for example, not beholden to Iran. And that's what fundamentally makes for a positive relationship between Iraq and the United States. Well, Iraqi's future must be that Iraq rules Iraq. And some of the changes that you cite, certainly have to do with Iran's influence elsewhere in the region. So, Iran's influence in Gaza, Iran's influence in Lebanon, Iran's influence next door in Syria. And I think the question going forward for Iraq is, who will rule Iraq? Will it be Iraq, which rules Iraq, or will Iraq fall under the influence of Iran? And this is a fundamental question for Iraqi's leaders and Iraqi's people.